Hey, welcome to the fourth and final episode of Off the Books Reviews. I'm Kayla May, video game journalist for a website called Bago Games. Okay, so originally I recorded this before last week.
Your scouts have discovered a rival
but
Mordheim in the vicinity. These warriors are clustered around their wagon, making them a very attractive target.
So I originally recorded this last week, but sadly, due to circumstances, I kept rewatching the footage and realized that I totally was not happy with just it, with how it went. It was off the cuff, but wasn't off the cuff enough to kind of make it enjoyable. There was a lot of stumbling. I wasn't even sure what I wanted to say. So I've gone away, planned it. Now I'm back for a proper review. Yeah, we're going to just be focusing on reviewing the overall game, and as I really want to stress, this is just a casual review, not formal in any way. It's off the books, so I wouldn't take it too seriously. Okay, so let's start off with the
A new round has started.
basics. It's a turn-based strategy game where you must lead your adventuring party to success by by finding glowing rocks that have descended upon Mordheim and hoarding them together and then selling them off as needed to your sponsor. And in this regard, it works incredibly well, really. There's enough actions there to create very interesting tactical decisions, in the sense that it's not just run up, attack things. It isn't just that kind of thing. There's also ambushing. There's using class-specific skills. There's a mercenary who is able to put bombs down, for instance, that trigger, I believe, when someone walks over it. The combat is incredibly gratifying, always feeling like you're teetering on the edge of failure, but never being pushed off into the murky depths below. And it constantly creates this tension by allowing your character, well, not only this tension, but also creates this atmosphere of potential doom, potential failure, by constantly making it so your characters may fall very easily. They're evenly matched, and in that sense, Mordheim is firm but fair. In terms of gameplay wise, it is mostly solid. My only main criticism about the turn-based gameplay going on is that at times it can be a huge frustrating affair. Because sometimes basically when you kill an enemy,
A new round has started.
and they've been taken away off the battlefield, they are brought, they're left, and you find like a bag where the enemy once stood. And sometimes it can be a bit of a wrestle to actually get the game to acknowledge you're close enough to the bag for you to be able to use it. I could have done with a bit more guidance of, okay, this is when you can loot it and this is when you can't. The other thing that bugs me is you're not, although it's kind of understandable, but it is a bit of a frustration still, is that when you're in a situation where you're trying to loot something and you ran out of turns trying to get there, basically because you can't do any actions within your ally's zone of control, for lack of a better term, what ends up happening is you just can't touch it at all, which is incredibly frustrating. Another frustrating aspect is that when you sorry. Bleh. Another frustrating aspect is that yeah, okay, sorry. I've got notes this time, so I'm having to refer to them. Another frustrating aspect is in terms of how the firm but fair approach goes. Like, even though you can't see the enemy at all, the enemy still takes its turn in a fair manner akin to yours. Except this can be insanely time consuming because they have the same amount of foes on their side as yours. There's also another frustration I have in this regard. That sadly the game
A new round has started.
Yeah, sorry. It's still a bit off the cuff, so I'm still kind of a bit flaky. Not sure what I'm saying, but at least I've got it planned out while I'm writing. Oh yeah, speaking of parts of the game that's firm but fair. Oh Christ, where am I being shot from? Okay, so it is firm but fair, but it also means that it also avoids the huge, horrible problem of basically your character dying because you just had a bad luck and then screwing the rest of the campaign. Basically the XCOM problem. Rather than the enemy dying, what can happen instead is your allies come back, mostly healed, but still damaged in some aspect. Injuries include a fractured skull, loss of a limb like leg or arm. It can include a damaged hand, things like that. And these not only add to the atmosphere of the game, but it also presents a second chance, kind of. That you can recover this. And that is incredibly useful, because otherwise it just leads to this situation where you're just not able to keep up with what's going on. In terms of the camping side of the game, this was mostly well executed. I really appreciate how the game offers a lot of customization for the crew, but in a similar style to how... But the problem is they've made it so customizable and an item so rare that in some sense of the word, you just don't get enough use out of it to make it worthwhile. It's so rare that you'd be able to completely equip all the inventory slots on a character. But it also creates another problem in terms of that
objectives updated.
But on the flip side of having heavy customization, I've been able to equip different items, being able to do different things, that kind of aspect. On the flip side to that, there is this kind of awkward situation that there just isn't nearly enough class types. There's one hero type, there's one captain, one hero, with more heroes if you get the DLC. Like right now there's
objectives updated.
Like right now there's 2 character classes that get added to each of the factions, and to be honest, this just, it feels like you're kind of being nickeled and dimed for content that maybe should have been there on release. I don't think having one hero and one captain is quite enough customization, especially since these are potent characters. These are characters who can turn the tide by their mere presence, and to just only have one approach to that problem is just, I'm surprised they went through with it. I'm also surprised there's only 2 henchmen, but this is a lot more forgivable.
Objectives updated.
Speaking of which, the game also decides that
objectives updated.
The game sadly also doesn't quite have enough environments. It is the same type of place. It is where you're running through the streets, huddling around alleyways, running through houses, things like that. And this is what keeps going on. And again, I really could have done with just another more situations, maybe running around the sewers, maybe going around just outside Mordheim into the forest.
A new round has started.
Like loads of these different types of possibilities. But sadly, it never manages to do anything more. Although, fortunately, on a more positive end in terms of the camping aspect, the open-ended nature of the campaign allows you to kind of forge your own tale, while there is an objective that stays exactly the same, which is basically pick up Weirdstone, deliver it to a sponsor. This can be leaped off from. There are also some story missions, but these happen way too few, way too aren't potent enough. Just they serve as window dressing at best, and it seems like the main attraction is doing your own tale.
Objectives updated. Objectives updated.
I think the only other but also speaking of having an open-ended campaign and forging tales, what could be seen as a huge problem with the game is that it gets incredibly brutal in terms of the injury system that I mentioned before. Some of them are completely fine to me, like severing arm means you only do one-handed attacks, you can't climb either. Things like that. These are completely fine by all standards. What is less fine is
a new round
to
has
be
started.
blunt, the fractured skull problem, where you have to roll an intelligence check, and if you fail, you miss a turn. And the thing is missing a turn in this game is incredibly potent as a problem. Like, I'm not sure if I think they really should have balanced that aspect, but
Objectives updated.
And on one final note, as you're going through the open-ended campaign, and you're kind of trying to decide what creating your entail in the process, there is a legacy system that is incredibly fantastic to me, because it means that you have a purpose to replay the game. It's not like you lose and then why even bother at this point. Although, like, and how the legacy system works is basically you might do objectives, like you kill so many troops, you
a new round has started.
Sorry, I'm being dim. I mean, this is another problem, that you can't just drop equipment to the floor. Okay, sorry, but legacy system, how it works is basically there are objectives like kill so many troops, do so many jobs, things like that. And from this, you'll be able to unlock skill points, which then these skill points can be used to give bonuses, such as things being cheaper, things having more accessibility, so on from there. And having these options allows you to make future playthroughs easier, because this game's brutal enough that it will make it easier but never easy. Which then you can hopefully go further, being able to rack up more spawns, elixir points and things like that. Although speaking of easiness, there is sadly no difficulty selection, which means that if you're kind of not doing well at this game and you still want to play, you're kind of in dire straits. I'm surprised they left off a difficulty selection off the table, but that's just me. Anyway, so the final score of Mordheim for Off the Books reviews is a 7 out of 10. It is good. It works to provide... It works within the setting that it's trying to portray, with the Warhammer fantasy setting. A setting which I'm still surprised hasn't been visited as much as I thought it would. Right now, you have this, and you have Warhammer Vermintide, Left 4 Dead-esque game. It is the biggest problem with this game, besides all the criticisms I've mentioned so far, is it's a game that feels like a proof of concept almost. It feels like a game that has gone out of its way to prove the idea that they could do this type of game, but never managed to follow through. It never managed to make it so...
Brave, bold warband is sneaky strong. Fetch find much wordstone. Filch will squeak speak to Murder Lord.
Sorry.
Tell him much. Warband climb.
Yeah, so it never manages to follow through. It never manages to give you enough characters. It never manages to give you enough environments to really let you breathe into the world and suck up its noxious fumes. And I really could have done them doing that, really. Because this was a game that has severe potential. It is a game that I would recommend to anyone who had a good time with XCOM, Enemy Unknown, or maybe a bad time because they found it too hard. Because this game, fortunately, is a lot more forgiving than XCOM. In that, if your character dies, you can still see them return. It is open-ended enough to make it matter. And with that, since we've hit the end of the mission, with its 7 out of 10 rating, if you like this series, post in the comments below, give it a thumbs up, that kind of thing, because right now I'm still kind of working out if this is what I feel is the best approach to do in terms of video content. I might do this again in the near future. I might not. Next week I'm gonna have it all not do a off the books reviews, just so I can work out what I'm going to do about this series. Anyway, with that, hit the end. Thank you for watching. Before I go, if you do enjoy this this series and I don't continuing it on, don't worry, as I still do first impressions reviews. Right now I don't have anything up and coming. The next game that I've got to review is a PlayStation 4 title, and I don't have a means to record it besides wrestling with Sony's own devices. And I tend to do a bit of editing to cut out where I count myself in and cut out. So I think it wouldn't be best for me to do it without some form of recording device. connected to the PlayStation 4. But don't worry, because if this first impressions review gets big enough and I can get funding from this, maybe from Patreon, or finally put some ads maybe going, I could then try to buy a better microphone, buy stuff to record with, things like that. Who knows, I might be able to work out a way to record the up-and-coming Zero Escape Zero Time Dilemma, which is a sequel to my favourite game of all time, Zero Escape Virtuous Last Reward. Anyway, at that, I'm rambling now. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye!